This is Bill Whipple inviting you to this week's edition of Election '08, Issues and Answers with Dr. Laurie Roth. During the next half hour, you will hear a candidate for public office in the upcoming election answer the hard questions and share their position on the issues you have said are important to you. Now here is your host, Dr. Laurie Roth, ACN contributor and commentator and nationally known talk show host.
This new series of programs was suggested by you, listeners. You've made it clear to us that you're sick and tired of candidates saying one thing during the campaign and doing something entirely different once they're elected. You've also said you're sick of vague, 50-yard line, unresponsive answers and questions that are lame. As an ACN network contributor and commentator, not a reporter, I may from time to time express an opinion on issues and ask the candidate for their reaction. The candidates do not have to provide any campaign funds to appear on this show. It is commercially sponsored by a number of community-minded businesses who put their advertising dollars into serving the needs and interests of their communities. Today, my special guest is Mark Richards, and he has happily been one of the Spokane County Commissioners for some time and is running for re-election. Mark was born and raised in Spokane and eventually got a degree in local government from Eastern Washington University. He's worked for over a decade in the restaurant business, then landscaping, and on to becoming a really popular real estate agent where he's practiced for years while raising a family. Mark, you just are like the Renaissance guy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. The Energizer Buddy, right? Yeah.
You just are. You have to be a dad these days.
Well, you do. And, thanks for that introduction. Just as you can tell, I'm only 44 years old, so I was given a good work ethic when I was very young, and I started working when I was, probably 12, doing paper routes, but really legally, 15, 16 years old is when I started in digging trenches. And so if the public, was wanting individuals to serve them that kind of have an experience of what it's like to really work, I've had that, and a lot of other wonderful jobs along the way.
Well, I've had paper routes, too, in junior high, but it was in Walla Walla, Washington. And I remember stopping horses, running down the road, and all kinds of things. Hopefully you didn't have to do that while you were...
No, not too much of that. I did get, bit once or twice by a couple of dogs, but that was my mistake. You bolt into somebody's backyard, and you probably ought to let that German Shepherd know you're coming.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you have been county commissioner for a while. What areas of concern and leadership do you see needed in Spokane County?
Well, I think the biggest is probably integrity, and that just isn't local politics. That's on up to the federal level, and your introduction said it so well. As we are tired of elected officials that we elect on sound bites, and then they turn out to be something entirely different, even when they change their mind, they're afraid to admit they changed their mind when educated with new information. And I think, to me, that's always frustrated me as a lifelong resident here in Spokane. And, of course, the most really recently thing that compelled me to run for office in terms of ethics go are just the kind of the meltdown that we experienced in the 90s in our city politics that became very disturbing and uncomfortable for us to be really associated with being a Spokane resident for a little bit in time. And I thought, just as many others have, I thought, I can either sit here and I can be upset, or I can, if I think I've got something to say about that, I need to step forward. And when somebody tapped me on the shoulder after my fellow colleague who has since retired from my district, and said, I think you'd be good at this, I thought, I better either do it or shut up. So here I am. So that's one of the things that's really motivated me, and I think it's one of the challenges we certainly need to continue on, and we've made some great progress in that area. But another one really closely aligned to that is ability to work together, and the fact is we weren't working all that well together. There was a lot of infighting going on. There were elected officials that just would refuse to sit in the same room together. I just found that unconscionable, and so we've done some good things to elevate, I think, the level of discourse and advance in that area. And some of the other areas you mentioned off the air, of course, is my involvement in public safety and in youth and really in helping those that genuinely can't help themselves.
I love it, and I want to dive into some of that, but you were just commenting on the amount of officials that don't seem to get along. The Democrats stay over here, and the Republicans stay over here, and they throw things at each other. It's like on the federal and local level, I think a lot of us are rolling our eyes and getting our eyes stuck in the back of our head wondering, okay, is there any time that you guys can grow up and get out of junior high mode and get along? But you established the Council of Governments where you invited elected policymakers from around the region of all party affiliations to understand each other and iron out differences and create efficiencies, if you will. That's your word, working together. Tell us about that. I think that's cool. I think that's wonderful.
Well, it is cool. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been an incredible project. Yet again, as a candidate, it's something that I professed, so I can either talk about that and then 4 years later, tell you I'm still interested in that, but I haven't done anything about it, or I could do something about it. And so shortly after I came into office, we established the Council of Governments, and it's just a wonderful project. It is working for Spokane, and I think the best demonstration of that is that you are seeing less caustic discourse in the media, where before we were using the media as a tool to slash out at each other or attack each other's policies. The other thing that we're seeing is a reduction in the lawsuits against one jurisdiction versus another. We still have some differences. We still end up in court sometimes, but much less today than we were. And that equates not only to more civility, but, of course, savings. So many times the public says, what are you doing suing another jurisdiction? That's my tax dollars. Don't you know that? And I think we need to be accountable for that. And so we've been able to work through a lot of issues. And one of the things, I think is so fitting with your station here is that the first thing we start with in these meetings that we convene every quarter is we break bread. It just was something very basic to me that I thought, it's really easy to attack somebody if you don't know them. It's really easy to say something inappropriate if there's no personal connection. And so let's start each meeting with just a 20-minute introduction and a casual, sharing a muffin and a cup of coffee together with no agenda. And so we start each meeting that way, where we just talk and visit and how your kid's doing and where are you from. And what I have found over the course of the last 3 years is the level of tension has gone down dramatically. And so instead of lashing out today, most of us pick up the phone and we say, hey, Joe, what were you thinking on that decision? Or, gosh, Kim, I need your help on this issue, and I wondered if I could encourage you to come along.
Well, I love that. And you say within this organization you've set up, the Council of Governments, that all the folks, the Democrats and Republicans, have an equal voice and a seat at the table. And like you say, you personalize it. Because you're right, we do have clashing worldviews sometimes and different agendas. But we do have to figure out in this country, federal and local, how in the world do we get along? We like you say, we want to waste all the taxpayers' time and money, lawsuits and arguments. Okay, now people are cynical again and don't trust a politician. That's not helpful either.
No, it's not. And and I know government and democracy in particular is about the art of compromise.
Yeah.
And really politics at its root is about compromise. And so I can just be so myopic that I won't be receptive to anything else but my opinion, or I can actually seek to listen, to learn, and to understand your viewpoint, and probably will find two things. One, we're not that far off, and two, you've given me something to consider and potentially to move my position. And I think that's something that it takes effort. It's very easy to say, no, I disagree with that and I'm not going to listen. It takes effort to say, you know what, I'm humble enough as an elected official. Our citizens put me here not to be so opinionated or so arrogant that I think that I've got all the answers. My goal is to continue to seek the answers, and sometimes those answers are across the political aisle. I think it's been a great, like I said, a project and exercise, and I think it's really bearing some fruit. One of the things that we were able to accomplish, you talked about efficiencies. Today it was about I think a month ago, we announced that we are moving towards regional animal control for Spokane